Yo, what's going on, guys? Jetxc here, and we are going to be going through the satisfaction survey. So this was a pretty significant survey, guys. If you guys don't know, like 3 weeks to a month ago, there was a survey regarding romantic relationships and male characters being in the game and main story characters for Gluppy Diner. So let's talk about it because this is going to be really important. I'm going to skip over the some of the questions that people don't really care about. I just want to get into the main part, the meat of this whole video. So if you want to look at the satisfaction survey for the story and the quality of life, please go ahead at your own leisure. We're going to dive right into the main part. If the romance between male and female characters was changed, which direction would you prefer? Right? So this was the big question. Now here's the graph. 37.5% said I'm fine with romance between male and female. 21% said change all main characters like Latho and Gray to female. 23% didn't care. I'm actually surprised by this. A lot of people just don't care. It's really interesting to see. And then I really thought these two would be bigger. Change all current romance to just friendships, or keep romance but don't add any in the future. But the significance of changing all main characters like Latho and Gray to female is pretty big, and they even talked about how like they were a bit shocked too. But yeah, overall, male characters are staying, and relationships are pretty much staying. But that's not the full story, so let's kind of read on. We ran this survey after noticing an increase in negative feedback regarding male characters. Opinions were varied, so we were especially curious about the outcome. According to the survey results, 36% of players said that they were fine with the inclusion of male-female romance elements, while 22% expressed no strong opinion. On the other hand, 6% wanted all existing romance content removed, and 12% preferred not to see any romance going forward. In addition, 20% of the respondents wanted all existing male characters changed into female characters. Male characters into female. Since we had seen these kinds of requests before, we included the option to better understand the player's exact intentions. That said, because this was such a drastic idea, concerns and objections quickly surfaced after the survey went live. Had the response for making all male characters female been higher, we would have given the matter more serious consideration. But with the final result at 20%, a figure higher than expected, but not enough to override the expectations of players invested in the existing characters of the story, we decided to maintain our current direction and continue to develop as planned. We will share more details on our future direction in the section below. So, basically, nothing really changed. However, there are some minor changes for future content, which we're going to get into. But first, what are your thoughts on including male characters in the story? 54% said I'm fine, and then about 17% no preference. 16% said male characters shouldn't be main characters. 7% male characters shouldn't appear at all. So if you take the pie as a whole, all the other options are about a little over like 35, like 33%, and then if you factor in people not caring, it's about like 46%. A little over 40%. So it's actually almost half, but obviously most people don't care about male characters appearing in the story. So let's read. This survey was conducted after we saw a wide range of opinions regarding the inclusion of male characters. According to the results, 50% of players said they were fine with male characters appearing, while 70% had no strong opinions. In other words, around 70% were not negative towards their inclusion. However, negative responses accounted for roughly 30%. Which is by no means small, which is true. Because of this, we are considering limiting the appearance of male characters in the future unless they are strictly necessary for story. Now, for people that may be upset by this, if you really think about it, they're releasing nothing but female characters, right? For the season event and the new characters I went over in the last video, we're getting 4 female characters, right? And it only makes sense that there's going to be less male involvement in general. And to be honest with you guys, in the season event, it looks like they're prepping for this like new set of villains. They have 12 girls that are called Reveries, right? Sonya's one, Darian is one, Greta is one, and then there's a mother. So there's going to be 13 characters that will be villains, quote unquote. And there will be a head villain, which is going to be the mother whoever that is, right? So I don't know where they'll fit in, but I think they might fit in after Storis is defeated, right? That's my take. So regardless, we're going to be seeing nothing but female characters, in my opinion. Okay, so how do you feel about having main story pack characters or costumes appear as fated guests? And then how do you feel about characters who have romance elements appear as fated guests? So thank goodness, majority of people thought it would be fine. And they also confirmed on the stream that they will be working on an Olivier fated guest. Oh my god, guys, it's gonna be peak. I'm so glad people are like, fuck it, man. Because again, guys, the worry was some people might feel a way about it, some people might feel uncomfortable, which I can understand. And that's why they did this survey, guys. It's not a bunch of, oh my god, people that hate male characters. They want there's a bunch of differing opinions that they wanted to get an explanation on. So the fact that they're okay with this, finally, main story characters, heck, maybe even we get Shara. So I'm excited by this result. The next two surveys focused on fated guests. All right, guys, I got to get out of here. In the past, I mentioned on stream that bringing in main story characters or those with even slight romantic elements as fated guests who could romance the master had made some players uncomfortable, which is why we had been cautious. However, after Olivier's update, many players asked for her fated story, and more voices began questioning our earlier stance. To get a clearer picture, we ran a survey. The results showed less than 10% negative responses, with over 90% players saying they were fine with it. Thanks to this, we now feel we could explore this direction more freely in the future. The following are open-ended messages players wanted to share with Browndust2. We organized the feedback. So here's the thing. This is basically like some of the main feedback that they saw the most. I do want to highlight this. Sexual elements in game. Opinion on sexual elements were split among BD2 players. Some considered sexiness a core appeal of the game, while others feared overemphasis could overshadow other strengths. They basically confirmed in the live stream they're not getting rid of the sexiness at all. If they come up with new ideas, they'll come up with new ideas. But these are, I'm gonna be honest, these are people that these are people that play the game and don't know that it's not going to change, and it hasn't changed for years. So I saw a lot of people worried about this. It's no issue. They're not really listening to these opinions. Other than that, there had some interesting responses like storyline, character relationships, existence of developing male characters, character design and art. Many praise the art style and character designs, noting satisfaction with the increase in sexy characters, though some caution against relying too heavily on that appeal. Overall, players praise the art style and character design. So again, it's not going to be that big of a deal. The game is 18 plus. They're not changing the sex appeal at all. So I just wanted to mention that, and you guys can check out the player feedback and all that stuff. Also, they did mention that they are a little bit worried that the devs listen too much to the community, but they confirmed on the live stream that they make final decisions on their end, right? And then overall satisfaction, people are satisfied. Now, the future direction. This is like the main part, and this is what I kind of talked about in my video. So, romance elements. We keep existing romance content as is, and we aim to add new romance, and we aim not to add new romance going forward. During future story refreshes, we are also reviewing modest reduction in romance expressions. So, I'm gonna be honest, guys, I don't really care about this because they barely mention romance in the story anyway. Like, this isn't gonna change anything for me, in my opinion, and it just makes sense just to focus on the story instead of relationships. Like, I'm being so serious. When the story ends, I don't even think we're even gonna get relationship like closure like that anyway. So, yeah. Overall, I think most people are gonna be fine with this. So it is what it is, right? Male characters. Now, this is interesting because I'm getting two translations. So listen to this. Existing male characters remain, but we plan to feature new male characters only when the story truly requires it, right? So they will barely show up in story, but only when it's like probably like main male characters like Latho Gray and then main villains like Storis. They could also appear as pickup characters, but even then their appearances will be very limited. There are no plans at the moment. So at first I thought when they said pickup characters that they were talking about like in the story. you know how you get like a character in the story that you can use to fight. But I also looked at this too. This was on the live stream, and I'm just going to read it here. It says gender, or no, I'm just going to read that last sentence. Male characters may show up in pickups, but their number will be kept to a minimum. There are currently no planned pickups featuring male characters. So at first, this kind of reads like there may be a possibility of male characters being pickup banners, but in the other screen that they showed on the live stream, they basically said there's going to be pickups, but there's also not going to be any planned pickups featuring male characters. I honestly don't know what to think of this. I just think there's not going to be any male characters because it just, I honestly don't know why they'd introduce any male character after all the drama they've been through and them having mostly females released for just about 2 years now. So I really wouldn't worry about this. Again, it's a mistranslation, I think. But yeah, I think in general, they're going to have male characters in the story, but you won't be able to summon them on banner. And then Faded Guest, many of you told us that even if a character appears in the main story or has romance elements, if they are compelling, feel free to introduce them as Faded Guests. And then renewing story packs, as mentioned in our prior stream and notes, we are preparing renewal for several story packs. There are many questions about romance, but separately based on past feedback, we plan to strengthen early packs based off of hooks and improve late pack coherence. We will not undermine the emotions of players who enjoyed the original stories. Rather than sweeping changes, we will keep the overall flow and refine select parts. In other words, expect target edits or removal of specific scenes, not full structure overhaul. So they're going to be removing some romantic elements, but keeping it very subtle. And I've talked about this repeatedly. And that's really about it, guys. They kind of go on to offline events. So overall, if I had to summarize this to you guys, it's essentially everything is staying the same, but we're reducing relationships and we won't be adding future relationships. Male characters are still in the story, but they will appear only when needed, as in if they're important characters like Storis and Lathel Gray. And we will be getting main story costumes in the Faded Guest. So that's really about it. Overall, solid survey. I thought it was really interesting. Yeah, good to see. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Please like and subscribe. Was definitely a fun live stream. But yeah, I think the direction of Browndust2 is pretty much set, in my opinion, after this survey. I really think the direction they're going to go after this story is over is going to be in a more female-centric story and possibly even a self-insert. Because they've done it in Browndust1. But I could be wrong.